Okay, welcome back to the War Room. We're live from the Green Zone, and what was our nation's capital, now it's a armed encampment. They've more of an armed encampment than it was for President Lincoln's first inaugural address in March of 1861, of which I think that 5 or 6 states had already succeeded. We were essentially 45 days or 30 days away from actual beginning of kinetic war in the War of the Rebellion. You're in the War Room. It is Tuesday, the 19th of January, the year of our Lord 2021, and we're on all the different platforms. I want to just before we get, by the way, for the live chat and hashtag War Room Pandemic, we have people that are all over it. Our people telling us your best comments. We love, and this is for Winnie about the election. We love the fact that you're keeping us on point. We want you to keep us on point, but we're never, ever, 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 ever going to give up on the election fraud. That's why you're having a faux inauguration right now. It's not the coronavirus. You're having a faux inauguration because he ran a faux campaign, right? And we don't know where these votes came from. And I'm sorry if Twitter doesn't like it. I'm sorry if Google doesn't like it. I'm sorry if the mainstream media doesn't like it. Look at the polling. Just look at the polling, the percentage of people. I think 81%. CNN's polls got 75% of Republicans. The other poll that CNN put up the other day had 81% of Republicans think he's illegitimate, or had massive voter fraud in it. And the killer on that second poll was one third of independents. The NBC poll, correct me if I'm being mistaken, I think had 30% of independents. NBC poll still got, their heads are still blown. But that Rasmussen's got a 3-day average now. That's gotten, if we can get if Denver can put up the 3-day average.
The Rasmussen.
Yeah. And by the way, Thingamajig is going to Rudy Giuliani, the mayor, is going to join us as soon as he's able to free himself up. So the mayor's going to come on. And why is the mayor coming on? Because his head's blowing up, like guys in the live chat, on Bill Barr, right? Bill Barr's first interview. He's got to throw out, running around and proving this voter fraud. I didn't see anything, but I warned about the mail-in ballots would be catastrophic, and they were, right? And he laid out the reasons, but didn't want to do anything, right? Afraid of being called a nativist, xenophobe, a racist, all that. Well, you know what? When they start calling you that, they've run out of facts, right? They've run out of facts. So those types of invective they throw on you, don't let it stop you. They're going to throw that all the time. You just got to power through that and get to the facts, get to the receipts, get to what's going on. We're going to do some live producing right here.
Yeah, let me take over while you do some live producing here, because I got to get to the point that I just saw.
Yeah.
After 4 years, after 4 long years, it appears that CNN's fearless reporting is back. I know they took 4 years off, and they've been kind of handling President Trump with kid gloves.
Yeah.
Now their fearless reporting's here. Fair weather expected on Inauguration Day, but snow flurries can't be ruled out. Ample sunshine expected on Wednesday, and what could be the sunniest Inauguration Day in Washington, D.C. since Bill Clinton was sworn in. This is the hard-hitting journalism we all expect, and we've all wanted.
Yeah, Zucker. Okay, we've got Mayor Rudy Giuliani, but Mayor, before we bring you on, I want to go back to the now truncated Bill Barr interview. If we can play if Denver can put up, and let's play the Bill Barr interview, and I want to get the response from America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Trump administration. And this is Bill Barr's first interview since the storming of the U.S. Capitol 12 days ago. As Attorney General, he was a loyal supporter of the office of President and of the man inside it. But on the issue of the legitimacy of November's election result, they differed. And he says those false concerns helped to encourage the violence.
Perhaps the debate about the integrity of the election was the final straw.
I think that was the thing that precipitated the riots on the Hill. Now, I think it's always important to remember that most people are exercising their First Amendment rights, but there was a substantial group, obviously, that went far beyond that and broke into the Capitol and tried to interfere with the proceedings, and that's unacceptable.
Certainly it's unacceptable, but Attorney General Barr, I think it's 500,000, 1 million people, right? You had, I don't know, a couple of thousand, right? Maybe I don't know, do a head count, a couple of thousand, but of that you had agent provocateurs, of which the mayor. So, Mayor, you've known Bill Barr. I mean, where's Bill Barr come up with this now? And here's what they're doing. They're moving the goalpost. They can't prove that President Trump's speech or Eastman's speech or Rudy's speech or any of the talks down there, which were really kind of these dry legal briefs, right? Was to act as a no offense, was act as a predicate. I've seen you fired up before, Rudy. That was not, and I've seen the president. My daughter's down there freezing. She's saying, "Dad, the president's given a legal brief to predicate what Pence was going to do." You know, you got a million people there freezing.
Laugh. It's too serious.
No, it is, sir. But
it's too serious. But you're absolutely right.
Where is Bill Barr? And by the way, okay, folks, understand something. There's no conspiracy, but there's no coincidence. Bill Barr did this on the president's last full day in office for a reason. Why did he choose ITV and give, to a third-rate journalist and, quite frankly, a third-rate network his first exclusive? Right?
By the way, I like Rohit, who did the interview as a human being, but he's the guy that used to follow Nigel and I around in 2015 on the campaign. He's a kind of total grundoon.
Total grundoon.
It's not somebody you give a real interview to.
When you get assigned the UKIP,
you
beat,
you're a grundoon.
You get assigned the UKIP beat in 2015. You're a grundoon, okay?
100%.
Because I was over there.
You got assigned the UKIP.
I got
beat.
assigned. I was following you guys. Okay, Mayor Giuliani. In all seriousness, what did Bill Barr just do?
It was treacherous what he just did. I mean, first of all, he has no basis for it. He was gone in the sense of being able to investigate any of the facts. He leaves out the key fact that one of the most violent things that happened there, of course, was the shooting and the death. That was all orchestrated by Antifa, and it's on film, and the guy admits it just about. You can see how what they're trying to do. They're trying to drive this from a peaceful protest, even a sort of certainly illegal break-in, but no damage, just demonstrating, to something that would be significant. You have to have a murder for that. So the most significant act that came out of that day particularly, was the murder, the death. Well, this guy is there, right there, filming the whole thing. And if you look at the group, about the only person that was a Trump person was the poor woman who was shot. All the rest of them were dressed up in their Antifa garb. A couple of them had MAGA hats on over black. I don't know. I have never seen a MAGA guy wearing Antifa black bloc, which is what they call.
Yeah.
It's admitted. The guy's brother has basically testified against him. Now, the great attorney general doesn't know that. And second, you're absolutely right. The two were going on while this happened. No. People didn't run out of that.
No. Let me.
1 mile.
Hang on for a second, Mayor.
They were sitting there freezing, like you said.
But hang on for a second. Hang on for a second. I actually think I take this very differently. And by the way, that was the Air Force veteran that got shot by the security guard through the glass, and the Antifa guys around there. Hang on. But I think Barr, they now know that you've come up with this Antifa and other evidence, and Raheem Kassam and the National Post have come up with the timeline. And the New York Times has had to buy into the timeline. So they can't prove what they were standing up there in the House the other night. They can't prove that the speeches, because they know this was pre-planned. And they know the timeline that these guys are already up there sometimes before the president even took the stage or early in the speech. And it would take, 30 or 45 minutes to walk up there, which most of the crowd did. That's why they all came up, saw something was going on. And very few of them, of the entire crowd, ever even entered the grounds down there by President Grant's statue. Very few of them. No, I think Barr sees that and sees your arguments. He's shifting to something totally different of which he was here. He's saying, oh, no. What precipitated it was really the running around, Rudy Giuliani and others running around for 10 or 12 weeks talking about election fraud. And he was there and he said, hey, there's no election fraud. I can't see anything. That's the point he's trying to make. They're moving the goalposts because you've already blown up their initial argument, right? You've already blown up their initial argument.
Let's blow up their second one. How about we blow up their second one? You see those guys scaling the walls? You think they were worried about voter fraud? You think the guys with the bats batting things in, dressed up all in black, were worried about vote? Does this look like a voter fraud crowd to you? It's crazy. These people had nothing to do with voter fraud. Look at the text that we have setting it up. This was going to be a peaceful protest, surely, nothing more than that, and it was hijacked by Antifa and two other groups. and turned into a violent action. If there were some Trump people that engaged in violence, it wasn't instigated by them. People who instigated this were not Donald Trump, Professor Eastman, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump Jr., or any of us. People who instigated were Antifa, GoPar, whatever the heck the name of it is, and a couple of other groups. They deliberately planned it. Groyper. They deliberately planned it, irrespective of anything.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with vote. And secondly, the claims of voter fraud are true. I just last night I got 3 more affidavits from my witnesses saying, can we still do something about it? 3 more people, one of whom wants protection, who watched false ballots being made. New witnesses. Now, am I supposed to not believe them? I've met, probably not 100, but 70 people. American citizens.
Hang on for a second. You
tell me there was voter fraud. I'm not
hang
supposed to believe them.
He was the Attorney General of these United States. Hang on. You went around. Let's leave aside the machines. Let's leave aside the ballots being shredded. Let's leave all that aside. I'm just saying on the basics of the core vertical of, illegal aliens voting, underage people voting, dead people voting, that, and also then the non-chain of title, non-custody of the mail-in ballots. Just on those 2 alone, how do you differ? The Attorney General of the United States said, I didn't see anything. I didn't see it, Rudy. What do you say to that?
I say somehow, somewhere, he forgot the oath of office that he took. Somewhere around the time that he didn't follow up on the Biden allegations because he was afraid to go after Biden. Somewhere around the time they got the hard drive, and the hard drive shows definite evidence of numerous bribes over 30 years. A second-year prosecutor could put that case together. Or how about the danger being posed for minors? That's admitted on the tape. Nobody takes any action there. Nobody. Not the local Delaware police, not the FBI, not Joe Biden. I know what's on that hard drive. Okay. Backwards and forwards.
Mayor, we're going to come back to the hard drive.
What's on that hard drive is disgusting.
We're going to come back.
The failure of law enforcement doing about it is illegal.
We're going to come back to the hard drive in the next segment. Because the Daily Mail's got a story that James Biden saw the hard drive and said, you're going to lose the election because of this, and I apologize. And Joe Biden supposedly told him, don't worry about it. Okay, so that's breaking in the Daily Mail today. But hang on. I just want to go back. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a break. I want to go back to the fact that the Attorney General is saying that, hey, Rudy and these guys running around, the voter fraud stuff and the president is what precipitated the riot. I want to get your response to that. And the president still has a venue to adjudicate this for our audience. It is called his Senate trial. Right? If he doesn't just argue process, he has the full thing to defend himself. Put forward the receipts.
Can I just do some breaking news here real quick? The Associated Press is reporting that 2 U.S. Army National Guard members are being removed from the security mission to secure Joe Biden's presidential inauguration due to, quote, ties to far-right fringe group militias. No plot against Biden was found.
Okay, that's the Associated Press. We're going to take a short commercial break here, and then we'll return with Mayor Rudy Giuliani on this whole situation with the upcoming Senate trial, and also the story breaking in the Daily Mail about the Biden family being very concerned about the hard drive from hell. We'll return in just a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room. Okay, Mayor, so I just want to ask you straight up. Attorney General of the United States says, hey, getting everybody all worked up on that is what precipitated this. You were one of the key guys going around the country in Gettysburg and making presentations, in Arizona and making presentations, in Georgia making presentations. We've got letters from the state senate of Pennsylvania saying, hey, we had a problem here. In Georgia, you've got guys. How do you respond to Bill Barr? Bill Barr just saying, there was nothing there. Well, how do you respond to him?
Well, that would be like saying if I was going around the country and pointing out the the evil of slavery or segregation. And some people got into a situation where they got too violent, if that's the case, and acted up. Of course, I didn't want them to do that, but this was a justifiable cause that I was pursuing. I have proof of that. The media can say it's debunked all it wants. They can't tear up my 9-hour tape of 30,000 votes in living color being stolen in Georgia that would have changed the result in Georgia. That's an extraordinarily serious federal crime. The real problem, the real cause of the violence, I think, if you want something other than Antifa, is Bill Barr not investigating it. If the people are angry, they're angry that these crimes have gone unredressed, and we've gone 2 years with crimes unredressed. Here we're finding out about letters that would have exculpated President Trump that go back 4 years ago, and the Justice Department was hiding them. The FBI doesn't investigate serious federal crimes involving Biden and his son that are put right in their lap. They don't bother to look at pictures that an ordinary detective told me should have resulted in an arrest immediately.
Hang on for a second.
That's Bill Barr.
I know, but I want to stick.
People are outraged.
I got it, but I want to stick.
The breakdown of our law under Bill Barr.
But I want to stick on the election. I don't want to get off the top.
Let him take some responsibility.
Okay, hang on. The president's going to have a venue to adjudicate this, right? This trial, they keep saying they're going to put him on trial. And by the way, breaking news, I think Ossoff, the two senators, can be sworn in tomorrow. Yeah. So Schumer's going to control the Senate, or the Democrats will control the Senate with the Vice President Harris voting to break the tie. President of the Senate Harris voting to break the tie tomorrow. So the trial, theoretically, they get to debate rules on Thursday and have a trial starting Friday. It'll be a trial, and it's very uncertain. I think the president and others are talking about, or Lindsey Graham's talking about, maybe some short version where they debate, whether they even gave him due process. Obviously, they didn't. There's so many, structural things around the legal aspects of this. But he does have a venue, if he so chooses, to put this forward and to shut up the Bill Barrs of the world. In the Senate trial, an opportunity for him to make his case to the American people that he's got the receipts here and can show them, as Peter Navarro and people come on the show time and time again, and the witnesses at your hearings, the state senators, all of the process they did in the Judiciary Committee down in Georgia, what they did out there in the Judiciary Committee out in Arizona. You've got all that. You got witnesses, you got the mathematics, you have all that, and that's not even talking about machines or anything like that. I'm talking about just the basic two verticals. So, Mayor, what would you? Are we going to see that, or you think we'll just see a truncated? Which, by the way, the president's perfectly not just capable; he's actually righteous in just doing that, because this is such a sham of how they put it forward. And now we know they can't prove. There's no proof there was any correlation between the rally itself and what happened on Capitol Hill because of the timeline and other things. But he will have the potential to have and if he was to choose that potential, they would fold in a second and not have a trial, because the Democrats and the Republicans don't want to sit there for 6 days and have to look at the evidence.
Well, I mean, it is. There are several choices, all of them from the president's point of view, very powerful choices that will result in him winning. He has to make up his mind as to what he wants to do. And as you know, attorney-client privilege really prohibits me from telling you what I think he's going to do. But I can outline both options for you. I mean, the first one you almost would ordinarily take. It's like they're telling you we're going to drop the case. So, of course, if they're going to drop the case, you let them drop the case. But if they don't follow through on that, and they want to extend that, and they want to get some cheap shots in, which I can't imagine Schumer's not going to want to do, then I would think the option of going to a full trial on the merits would be devastating for the Democrats. The evidence of this voter fraud, you know it real well, Steve. It could be one of the strongest cases I've ever seen. When I would show it to people in these legislatures, even the legislators who follow it would say, "Oh my goodness, I never realized that happened." You mean you actually registered 684,000 illegal votes? You have a record of them in Pennsylvania? And I showed them the record. You actually have a film stealing 30,000 votes, which somehow was converted into 130,000? Show me the film. Show me the tape. Oh my goodness. This is a major fraud. That's what will happen. American people will be sitting at home hearing about this debunked voter fraud, they'll find out that 6 states were stolen. They'll see proof beyond any doubt that 6 states were stolen. And I think we could come pretty close to calculating the number of votes by which he actually won those states within a margin of, let's say, 300,000 to 500,000 in Pennsylvania, 90,000 to 120,000 in Georgia. I mean, Peter would be an excellent witness. Peter Navarro would be a devastating witness because his people have calculated it almost down to the vote.
Mayor, for our audience, you've known Chuck Schumer for a long time. Chuck Schumer essentially takes operational control tomorrow at the same time Joe Biden takes of the executive branch. You've known Chuck Schumer a long time. Would you, if you were in the president's situation, would you trust Chuck Schumer if he made some commitment to you about how he's going to do this trial? Would you go all in 100% on that?
I'm not sure I trust anybody in that body. I'm not sure. They've double-crossed him so often. I can't possibly advise trust him. You got to go with your instinct and take it on faith. I'm not saying this as I guess it is a personal criticism, but I don't mean it as a personal criticism. But how often have commitments been broken? Not just by maybe even more by the Republicans, Steve. But if they said to him, "Oh, don't worry, nothing. You just make your motion. We'll grant the motion. Case dismissed." I can't see them not taking cheap shots, Steve. Can you?
No, sir. And I don't also. I think the reality of what the president has and what the evidence has is so overwhelming and compelling that they will never allow that to come forward. They will fold they'll fold like a house of cards before they let go. I'd like to have Denver. I want to shift topics. Denver, if they could put up the Daily Mail headline. So the Daily Mail's got a story talking about James Biden, who was very concerned, and I think actually said to Joe Biden when the hard drive from hell came out, "Hey, this could stop your run for the presidency." And Joe Biden's presidency said something like, "Don't worry about it," or you didn't do anything wrong, or something like that. The reason I want to put this up is not what James Biden thought and what he, and it wasn't just about the Ukraine. Is that the headline? Right headline? I don't have my glasses on. Okay, I don't have the not the Ukraine, but also about their failed ventures, as they call them, with the Chinese Communist Party, state-owned industries. Mayor, here's what still boggles my mind. Bill Barr, who is, sitting here now blowing up the president, was it not his FBI that this was delivered to back in December of 2019? December of 2019, they got this hard drive with all the information on it. And we know now it's not Russian disinformation. The Bidens have not denied one thing on that hard drive. And now you got James Biden understanding how kinetic it was to say, hey, this could blow us up. How did the Justice Department and the FBI not come forward immediately in December? And two things would have happened. There would have been no impeachment trial. The impeachment was just getting worked up. The impeachment trial collapsed because the hard drive shows that, hey, the phone call in the Ukraine was perfect. As importantly, Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren would have been the nominee. One of the ones on the populist left would have. Joe Biden was kind of on the ropes even then. He was about to implode in Iowa and New Hampshire when the Wall Street had to take him off the New
York Times, remember, endorsed Warren and Klobuchar.
Warren and Klobuchar. So, Mayor, how can this thing is so radioactive, and James Biden knows it's radioactive? I want to go back to the system. How does the system protect Joe Biden and not come forward and let the American people see what was going over a year ago in December of 2019?
Because the system wanted to defeat Donald Trump so badly, they were willing to commit crimes to do it. I mean, in essence, they're ignoring this clear evidence of serious crime at the highest levels of government is a total dereliction of duty. I mean, they're in my view, they're all disgraced for that, not having done it. Not only that, in January of last year, I turned over to the U.S. Attorney in Pittsburgh hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents, affidavits, at least 10 live witnesses that would have personally testified that Joe Biden was involved, personally testified against him in court. No anonymous witnesses. that he was involved in bribes, large bribes, and that the person that was getting the bribe from the Ukrainian was not the kid, it was him. The bribe was for Joe. It was funneled through payments to Hunter. And then all you need is the hard drive where you have a text from Hunter Biden to his daughter saying, I pay for all the family expenses, 30 years, and I have to still have to kick back 50% to Pop. I mean, there's the evidence of the conspiracy and how the payment was made. It's a typical bagman situation.
Mayor.
And James was the bagman when Hunter wasn't. And then the wife was the bagwoman when Hunter wasn't. That's all over the hard drive.
Mayor, we got to bounce. We're going to get
a whole big chart here.
We're going to put up
a whole big chart here.
We're going to put up your social media.
I still have it.
We're going to put up your podcast and all of that, Rudy's podcast. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us here.
It's a disgrace.
War and Pandemic. Thank you, sir. Honor always to have you on. We'll be back with Mark Kirkorian, CIS, next.
This is my inauguration picture.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back to War Room. So much going on. I want to thank Mayor Giuliani. But make sure it's Rudy's Common Sense. It's one of the hottest podcasts in the world. You've got to see it. I think it comes out every Tuesday and Friday. We'll make sure we get the exact time. And of course, you go to Rudy Giuliani on Twitter, and he's now on Parler. I think Parler's going to be back up. What about Gab, Raheem Kassam?
Exploding. I mean, just I think 3 million more users in general over the last couple of days. I am now up to 75,000 followers. That's gab.com/Raheem. That's where we break news now.
So, and we're going to have the CEO, Andrew Torba, back on from Gab in the next couple of days. We're trying to get all these social media platforms. We had Clout Hub here yesterday to talk about what their future plans are, et cetera. So I want to go to, we're going to turn now to Mark Kirkorian from Center of Immigration Studies, I think one of the top brains in our country about the immigration situation. Mark, we know that the Biden, the signal, not the noise. They're going to talk a lot of stuff about EOs on the Paris Climate Accord and all that, but they're coming in with a piece of legislation they've already drafted, right, to essentially give citizenship, a pathway to citizenship, to between 11 and 15 million or 20 million, however you count them, illegal aliens. But before you get to there, and that's why folks out there have to stay focused on what the Biden administration, the four overlapping, interconnected crises, they said the pandemic, the economic crisis that triggered a social justice, racial justice crisis, and a climate change crisis. That's from the Biden administration. Yet they're leading with immigration, a fully baked, or in this case, a fully half-baked piece of legislation. But Mark, we have another crisis. And in the run-up to 18, I'm very particular about the situation in Central America. When I was in the White House, I actually advocated to have a Five Nations meeting in McAllen, Texas, and bring the Five Nations together from Central America and Mexico and the United States, because it's a human tragedy down there. I mean, nobody doubts that. And if you were down there, we'd probably be doing the same thing. So it's a tragedy of biblical proportions. But once again, we're back in the situation. I think we have another caravan coming up. And actually, some of the Biden guys are saying, no, don't come. We got to get this sorted. Walk our audience through what the facts that you know them, what's precipitated this, and then where are we going to handle this on the eve of getting this massive immigration bill tomorrow?
The caravan that was in the news over the last couple of days seems to have been stopped. It was the Guatemalan police, riot police, broke it up. They were actually attacked by the caravanners, or at least the people at the front of the line, with rocks, sticks. I mean, it was a pretty violent thing. The Guatemalans broke it up. So it looks like this caravan has come to an end. Now, anything could happen, but it looks like they've succeeded in stopping this one. The video from it is really quite, alarming, with these people attacking the cops, pushing them aside, rushing past. but they seem to have gotten them, turned them around, rounded a bunch of them up and deported them. But that's not the end of the story, because this wasn't just a one-off thing. These people are clearly, they just openly say that the reason they're doing this is because of Biden's coming into office. We sent an analyst down to southern Mexico and Guatemala a year ago, and he was talking to Central Americans trying to sneak north, and unprompted, they said, yeah, we're doing this because we're going to kind of bide our time in Mexico, and then when the Democrats win, when Trump loses, we're going to then come in because the Democrats will let us in. They didn't know Biden was going to be the nominee. Nobody did yet. But they knew what the score was. And now that Biden has, in fact, won, is going to be sworn in tomorrow, this is explicitly the reason they're coming. Let me just read you a quick little quote from one of the people who spoke to AFP, the big French wire service. And he said, I think that with this new president, things will change for a migrant who arrives without papers. Because with Trump, we are screwed, unquote. This is what a Honduran migrant told a reporter. This is why they're coming. They understand that if they can get to the border, get their foot across the line, then they're basically home free. The Biden transition person you referred to said, don't come. This is not a good time to come. What that means is, let's get this amnesty bill through Congress and signed, and then you guys, then you're all set. You guys can come in, and we're not going to stop you. It's really, this is going to get worse. And the Biden people are uncomfortable with it, obviously, because having this kind of footage on American TV while they're debating an amnesty bill is not helpful to their cause. Well, and yet, the illegal immigrants are not cooperating. Here's the
other reason it's not helpful to the cause. We had Cortez walk through it. Trump was on fire. The economic nationalism and border security and safety of these predominantly Hispanic counties and down in the Rio Grande Valley, his message is working. The American citizens down there of Hispanic descent, Starr County is 96%, Hidalgo, they get it. You need border security. This is not demonizing the people from Central America or Latin America. There are massive problems down there. And somehow we have to work together to sort them, right? But a solution is not just coming across our border as an illegal alien, as a non-citizen to come here. Can you walk through right now what President Trump did? What's the current status of this situation of like the family separations or people staying back and have to wait in Mexico that you're already hearing Biden, he's going to sign 12 executive orders tomorrow to undo everything Trump did in this. What's the bid and the ask on that, Mark?
The probably the most important thing that President Trump was able to do to stop the flow of these Central Americans seeking asylum, supposedly, really using asylum claims as a kind of gimmick to get into the U.S., is what is colloquially known as the Remain in Mexico program. And the point of that is that third country people, mostly Central Americans, who came to a port of entry or crossed illegally and said, I want asylum, they said the magic words they'd been coached to say, didn't just get let go into the United States anymore. That's the way it had been under Obama, and that's the way it had continued for a while under Trump. What Trump did is he got Mexico to agree to take those people back, which they didn't have to do because they're not Mexicans, but to take them back so that they wait until their hearing dates. They wait in Mexico rather than just be let go into the U.S. where they'll never be seen again very often. That has really succeeded in breaking the back of that out-of-control situation with people coming across the border. Biden has said he's going to end that, and that he's going to end other programs, like a safe third country program, so-called, with some of these Central American countries, so that if you passed through them and had claimed asylum, we can send you back and you have to apply for asylum there. And only if you get rejected, then would you be considered here. So the point is, there was a suite of policies that Trump put into place that tried to, and I think succeeded to a significant degree, to return asylum to what it should be, which is the last resort for desperate people rather than just a way of kind of forum shopping, as you will. In other words, a kind of a stratagem to get into the United States. Biden's going to end all of that, and the result is going to be a return to what we had a few years ago. And Biden is going to be faced with a hard choice within, another month or so, where people are going to be at the border trying to storm bridges, and he's going to have to decide, is he going to use tear gas on them, or is he just going to wave them into the United States? Neither one of those is politically palatable to the Biden people, and it's, frankly, if it weren't so bad for the country, I'd say get your popcorn and watch it.
Well,
But
isn't our relationship with Mexico, though, that Mexico will help us in that thing? You won't have that kind of a draconian choice that actually we've got a working with President Trump. You've had a working relationship with Mexico.
Up to now, yes, absolutely. In fact, much better than I expected. The president of Mexico, he's known by his initials, AMLO, AMLO. He actually and Trump seemed to get along. I mean, I didn't expect that at all. Now, Trump has, played some hardball. He said, look, you guys need to work with us or we're going to have trade sanctions. And even though we depend a lot on trade with Mexico, it's a lot more important to them than it is to us. So Mexico really has been playing ball. They have stationed their National Guard down on their southern border to bottle up people down there. And they, have worked with us more up here at the northern border. The question is, how long is that going to last without Trump in charge? And, even if AMLO, the Mexican president, wanted to keep working with us, he's got his own forces, political forces that are pushing, against working with us. And with Trump there, he had an excuse. He said, look, well, the big bad orange man is making me do this. There's nothing we can do about it. Once, Biden is there, that excuse doesn't exist for him. So I think you're going to see a weakening of the resolve, not right away, but over time, over the next few months in Mexico and in Guatemala, help stem this. And once the first significant group of people gets through across the border into the U.S., then it's Katie bar the door.
Talk to us about, what do you anticipate, or what do you know about this bill that's going to be dropped tomorrow, this amnesty bill?
I just know what's been reported, but it's, pretty clear what they're going to do. It's going to be sort of half, if you will, of previous amnesty proposals. Because in the past, it was always, okay, we're going to amnesty all these people in exchange for promises to enforce the law tomorrow so we won't have more illegal aliens. The Biden approach is we're going to amnesty all of these people and there's not going to be any enforcement and you're going to like it. Tough luck, screw you. I mean, there's not going to be any enforcement. The only even pretend aspect of this that would deal with the reasons or the ways people are migrating is we're going to have, more development aid for Central America. I'm not against that, but, first of all, it's not clear development aid actually does any good. We've been doing this for 50, 60 years around the world, and it seems to actually do more harm than good. But even if it worked, development is something that will take generations to reduce the pressure to emigrate from these countries. Decades. There's just no way in the short run, if anything, economic development increases the number of people who leave their country because now they've got, they got some resources. They got two nickels to rub together and they've got connections around the world, especially in the United States. So there's no serious part of this bill that would offset the amnesty with measures to make sure we don't have another 10 million illegal aliens a few years down the road. And if it doesn't have even the pretend element of limiting future illegal immigration, it's it ought to be dead on arrival. I'm afraid it's not going to be, though.
Okay, Mark, real quickly, got about 20 seconds. How do people get to you on Twitter or other social media?
Well, our site is online, CIS.org. I'm on Twitter, if you like snark and sarcasm, at Mark S. as in Stephen, Mark S. Kirkorian.
Mark Kirkorian from CIS, thank you very much. Fantastic. We look forward to this bill tomorrow and getting you back on to do some deep dive analysis on it. Okay, short commercial break. Raheem, thank you, sir. Top guy in immigration. Okay, we're going to return in a moment to talk about breaking news.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome back to the War Room. Big amnesty bill is going to drop tomorrow. Also, I think you're going to see much more focus on what this trial from the impeachment of the president is going to be. There's a lot of talk, or it's going to be short, and just they're going to debate the due process and all the technical problems they had with this, and how it was a rush to judgment and get out there quick. Or is Schumer going to try to change the rules? And then the president's got the backup of actually going and arguing why he didn't instigate the riot up on at the Capitol by his speech, and then can actually lay out what now Barr's moving the goalpost, that it was his going around and trying to get a fair and legal accounting on the election. And so he's got the evidence for both. So we'll have to see. That's all going to be breaking. We'll be back here at 5, National Pulses on top of this at 3. I want to go back to this National Guard situation. It's a very dangerous situation. You got 25 or 30,000 National Guard troops here in town. For what threat has never really been put? They're saying there's chatter on, there's IC, intelligence community chatter, but they really haven't come up and said, hey, you've turned this into a green zone, the central government complex. What is the threat, and what, I mean, you're kind of at DEFCON 2 right now, maybe DEFCON 1. And then we've had some other breaking news today during the show.
Yeah, again, we've got to go back and explain this to people, because Washington, D.C., I understand, is a very, very remote place for a lot of people in this country. But it is the place that dictates how you are allowed, and I can't believe I have to say that to an American audience, but it is increasingly true, allowed to live your life, whether you're allowed to open your businesses, whether you're allowed to say certain things, whether you're allowed on platforms that have declared themselves the public square and now work very hard to keep you out of it. And remember, they harangued, harassed, demonized an entire political movement and its leader, Donald J. Trump, for wanting to erect a border fence or wall around the country. But now here they are erecting several layers of fencing around the government. So that's where we stand at the moment, and it bears reminding ourselves and repeating, and it bears looking at some of these pictures of the National Guard being deputized by night the other night as well. 2,000 of them added to the complement of about 3,000 existing U.S. marshals, so that they now have the power of arrest. I mean, the idea of the National Guard executing a warrant, for instance, absolutely terrifying as a concept here, but this is what they've been put here to do in the absence of actual crowds. They have crowded the U.S. military, and now, in addition to that, as we know, the FBI and the DOJ have been going through some of the social media posts and Facebook groups and things that the National Guardsmen have been members of, and have now suspended from duty in Washington, D.C. 2 National Guardsmen for what they say are ties to fringe right-wing militias. No plot against Biden was found. Now, remember, the Associated Press here is quoting 2 anonymous sources on this, an Army official, they say, and an intelligence official who they say spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity due to Defense Department media regulations. They did not say which fringe group the Guard members are alleged to belong to or what unit they served in. In other words, you have people just saying stuff that isn't checkable in any way, and the establishment corporate media is running those statements from the Department of Defense, Army official, intelligence official, without being able to prove any of it. I suspect that, of course, we will find out in the long run that this wasn't a particularly interesting or intriguing affiliation that these people had. Nevertheless, what does it portend, and what does it tell us? It tells us that the apparatus of the state, the military apparatus of the state, is being used now by Joe Biden and by DOD, Army, intelligence officials to create a Praetorian Guard that can only serve if they have overtly stated allegiance to political candidate Joe Biden.
Biden's not commander-in-chief yet.
Correct.
So there are other people that are getting those, they're running those commands through.
Correct.
So that's all got to be, I think that all ought to come to light, exactly what's going on here. Let's talk about, I want to talk about about the flags. It's absolutely stunning what it looks like. And at night, it's amazing visual. During the day, it's amazing visual. But it definitely limits the number of people that can come to this inauguration tomorrow. What do you think that's about?
Oh, you can't have anybody out there now. I mean, it's a sea of these flags that they've placed in the National Mall. Which, by the way, I don't think we can call the National Mall anyway now, right? You can't. The nation is not allowed there. The nation is not allowed access to the National Mall. It's not the National Mall anymore. It's the government mall. It's the state mall. It's the establishment mall. That's what they've done to this thing. They've put the 56 giant pillars of light or on all sides to represent the number of states and territories of the United States. No consideration for the energy usage and climate change and blah blah blah. Everything we always hear from the political left there, but what here is high. Put the National Mall behind all of this fencing, behind barbed wire, by the way, barbed wire 20-foot fencing here in Washington, D.C. You can't even get to the National Mall and these areas now. Why? Because they know they cannot attract a crowd, because they know that, I don't even know anybody that voted for Joe Biden outside of Washington, D.C., right? And they just know full well that they cannot have people there, so they'll make an excuse. Firstly, it was the virus. You can't come because of the virus. And then people were like, yeah, but it's the inauguration of the president. Some people will want to go at least. Like, some people I'm sure would have voted for Joe Biden, and they go, no, we can't have like 200-300 people out there on the National Mall. Put some little flags in the ground so that nobody can freely walk around or stand outside there. They're gonna announce tomorrow, oh yeah, by the way, we got to do it in the base, we've got to do it in the skiff, it's too much of a terror threat, got to do it in the skiff. Nobody will ever see pictures of Joe Biden being inaugurated.
So what is the National Pulse? What are you covering at 3?
So we're going to have all Real America's Voice correspondents from all around the country who are reporting from different areas on specialized reporting surrounding this inauguration. We'll also be covering some new breaking news that we have up on the National Pulse right now about the Biden picks being tied again to the Chinese Communist Party. Of course, CNN Fearless Reporting is focusing on the weather right now. We're focusing on the news.
Okay, this is Stephen K. Bannon. You've been watching War Room Pandemic. I want to make sure you pass this along to everybody. Go to text right now, War Room, that's one word, 2-888-111, and download the app. Go to warroom, all one word, .org. You can hit / join the community, join the community. If you want to get into the live stream, go to americasvoice.news. You can get into the live chat. Also, hashtag War Room Pandemic.
Hang on, it's just warroom.org/join.
/join.
You don't need to join the community.
Okay.
It's just /join.
On Gab, on Minds.com, Rumble, podcast platforms everywhere, and of course, populistpress.com, all one word, and Creative Destruction Media. Raheem at 3 will be back at 5 with more breaking news.